So recently I've been spending a lot of energy trying to learn what my climbing needs in order to reach a new level. I've set some pretty ambitious goals for myself this year, like trying a V15 for the first time, and if I'm being honest, it still feels like that goal is a little bit out of reach at the moment. But by extension of thinking what do I need to do to grow, I've also spent a lot of time reflecting on what has gotten me to where I am now, and specifically if there's things I could have done differently in the past that maybe would have produced better results. In this video, I want to go over a few things that I would have done differently if I started climbing again. Honestly, these tips are pretty simple, but if my experience has taught me anything, I've learned that it's often the simplest things that matter the most. It's not a comprehensive list because there's just so many things that I would change in hindsight, but these are some of the things that I think were true for me in the past and are still true for me today. But first, let's do a quick recap. About 7 years ago when I was 18, I connected with some friends that got me really into climbing. Like any beginner, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I was having a lot of fun. Climbing quickly started consuming most hours of my day. I started climbing as much as I could at every opportunity. My first job was even at a climbing gym, and I eventually became a route setter, which helped me to quickly advance my understanding of movement. Somehow, just 4 years after I started climbing, I found myself standing on top of my first V13. After that, I got obsessed with this boulder called Zeph, and last fall, I found myself standing on the top of that too.
Fucking let's go!
So,
Holy
now
shit!
that we're a little bit up to speed, let's dive into it.
Woo!
If I started climbing again, I'd make sure that I climbed anti-style problems as frequently as I could. This probably has to be my biggest takeaway in the last few years, and I want to give you an example of why.
Alright y'all, so there was a climb set a while ago over here where I'm heading, and it was set maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've been avoiding trying it because it's super crimpy, but we're gonna go try it today.
I was at the climbing gym the other day filming for this video, and I had an experience on this climb that I thought was rather ironic, and I want to share that with you guys.
That was so silly. I've literally been waiting weeks to try that climb. I've done every other red dot on the wall, and I've just been intimidated to try that climb because it's crimpy, and I literally just did it for scale, and it wasn't even that bad. Yeah, I don't know. That's just really silly. Like, I just wasn't trying it because I didn't have confidence to, and I'm actually able to do a lot more than I think I am. So, yeah, try things that intimidate you, and maybe it'll work out.
I think a big reason why I avoided trying that crimpy problem is that my confidence was just not there at all. It had nothing to do with my actual ability. In my head, I've told myself a narrative of what I'm not good at, and believing that narrative stopped me from doing something that I was totally capable of doing. In hindsight, that's pretty silly. The best way to build that confidence is just by trying. But I also think that this concept is bigger than just needing to try anti-style problems more frequently. The deeper truth that I was feeling and experiencing is that I need to be more willing to fail and do things that are challenging for me. I didn't want to try the crimpy climb because I really just thought I was going to fail and not be able to do it. It's been said 1,000 times, but climbing really is mostly failing, and I need to do a better effort of leaning into that across various styles. Number 2. If I started climbing again, I would train mobility religiously. This one might strike you as an unusual thing that I'd consider a part of what I'd do differently if I started climbing all over again, but let me explain.
I'm trying to get back into the habit of doing my mobility routine every single day, and I don't ever think that my mobility routine is that bad, but I find that when I do it consistently, it has a really positive effect on my overall climbing. So I'm trying to get back into that habit, and over the years my mobility routine has changed quite a lot. but I really find that it doesn't have to be that complicated in order to be effective. All right, so right now I'm going to show you guys just a little simple routine that takes about 15 minutes and that I find is really easy to be consistent with and has a pretty great impact on my overall mobility.
I've noticed a correlation between how frequently I train mobility with how focused I am on improving my technique when I'm climbing. When I look back over the years, the time periods when I was training my mobility the most are the times when I thought I was climbing the most fluidly and efficiently. I think that this is because when we are on the climbing wall, we tend to focus on utilizing what we train the most. Essentially, when we train, we reinforce the pathways in our brains, so naturally we become most conscious of the things we do repeatedly. And that means if we train our mobility and our hips a lot, we'll naturally be more conscious of using them as we climb. And in the same way, I noticed that whenever I stopped training my mobility, my technique would slowly start to suffer.
That actually only took me 14 minutes, so I was actually ahead of time. But yeah, you guys get the gist. The point is, it really doesn't take that much time to work on something like your mobility. All you have to do is give it like 10 to 15 minutes a day and you can make drastic improvements, and it really helps your climbing. Or at least it's really helped my climbing.
The bottom line is that our hips are one of the most fundamental parts of good technique. I guess that this is kind of a roundabout way of me saying that if I started climbing again, I'd focus on my technique a lot more. But I want to emphasize that for me, training mobility was a natural gateway into having better technique. And on top of that, the time periods when I neglected my mobility negatively impacted my overall climbing. Number 3. Last and certainly not least, I would listen to my body a lot more. Now this is something that I'm not particularly bad at, but even still I've made the mistake of pushing too hard when I've had small tweaks and inevitably it turns into a big tweak. The truth is that I've done this way more times than I actually care to admit, and the reality of it is that every single time I've done it, I've walked away thinking that actually really wasn't worth it. You've probably noticed that I've been climbing with tape on my finger this whole video and some of my more recent videos. For the most part, I'm pretty healthy now, but I've been using precaution because I've been dealing with some knuckle inflammation for a while. I've gotten it to a point where it's pretty manageable and I can climb as hard as I want to, but the truth is that these are just some small tweaks that started weeks or months ago that I ignored when I should have rested. And because I ignored them, I had to spend weeks rehabbing and lowering my intensity instead of training hard and pushing my limit. Now, it kind of goes without being said, sometimes injuries are unavoidable. They're just a part of sport, whether that's climbing or any other sport. But ignoring something when you know it's not healthy is just stupid. And if I'm being honest, I've been stupid more times than I care to admit. Alright y'all, that pretty much wraps things up for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, leave a comment if you have a question.